biggest misconceptions about forefoot running is that it often gets confused and mistaken as being toe strike running and gets referred to as toe strike running, when really forefoot strike running and toe strike running are not the same. Forefoot running is not injurious, whereas toe strike running is, because toe strike running overall is significantly straining on the toes and the shins, and I'll outline exactly why that is in just a moment. Forefoot strike running and toe strike running are two completely different foot strike patterns. Toe strike running involves landing really high up on the toes without letting the heel drop all the way down to the ground. Forefoot strike running is actually a much flatter foot placement at landing, where initial ground contact is made on the balls of the foot, not the toes. This is followed by the heel lowering down all the way to the ground, and the overall strike angle at landing is much lower or flatter than it is in a toe strike landing. You can see just how high the back of the foot is up off the ground in a toe strike landing compared to a forefoot strike landing, where the heel is only slightly up off the ground, then it fully drops down to the ground. In a proper forefoot strike landing, a huge problem with toe strike running is there's strong evidence that it causes shin splints, because it essentially overstrains the shins, whereby a study in the Journal of Orthopedic and Sports Physical Therapy, which is linked down below this video in the description box, found that toe striking causes the center of pressure, which is created by the weight of the body, to begin and end in the forefoot, because the heel never drops down to the ground. Without the heel lowering down to the ground, it can't draw the center of pressure away from the forefoot, and therefore the center of pressure can't be distributed evenly and therefore safely over the foot like it should. But instead, the center of pressure remains very heavily localized to the forefoot only. And in this condition, the forefoot now becomes a hotbed for a stress fracture due to all the chronic overpressure localized to that area. How shin splints arise from this is that the study found that it increased mechanical demands on the connective tissues surrounding the tibia or the shin as a compensatory mechanism to try and disperse the excessive pressure that is confined to the forefoot. And the same study also referenced very similar studies which found that runners with a history of shin splints had absolutely no heel-ground interaction as well. This really highlights the functional significance of the heel lowering phase, which is essentially one of the main components of forefoot running, whereby heel lowering helps disperse the little impact that is actually produced after the forefoot has struck the ground. This precise movement path of the foot in forefoot running, so the forefoot to heel movement path, not only allows for a much smoother, more jarring-free landing, it also allows the center of pressure to spread over a larger surface area of the foot, in that the center of pressure begins at the forefoot and it ends at the heel after heel contact. This evens out impact to the extent where pressure loads are literally perfectly prevented from spilling out onto the shins. The other big advantage of the forefoot to heel movement path is that there's no point throughout the foot that gets hefty impact loads delivered to it, and ultimately the center of pressure appears to effectively spread best in this way as compared with both toe strike running and heel strike running. I actually posted a link in the description box below as well to a video that I did on how the way that the center of pressure travels in heel strike running causes a lot of injuries and risk factors for injuries like overpronation. All in all, knowing this kind of data really presents a fresh take on the other ways that forefoot running does a better job at preventing foot and shin injury as compared with other running styles. And so therefore, to avoid damaging impacts on the foot and the leg, don't be a toe strike runner, be a forefoot runner, because impact pressure distribution on the foot is not only proven to be uninjurious, it really should be mechanically and functionally obvious to see how pressure is able to spread more efficiently and safely over the foot in forefoot running. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to hit the thumbs up button, as well as the subscribe button if you haven't already, where you will stay more informed on forefoot strike running versus heel strike running, as well as more informed on the health and performance benefits of barefoot running and how barefoot running can make you a better shod or shoe runner. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Have fun out there on the roads and trails. Bye for now.